My 35M girlfriend, 21F, uncomfortable with my wife's ashes. Going to try to keep this as short as possible. Please tell me if I'm in the wrong here. Married high school sweetheart at age 25. She died in a car accident 5 years later. We loved to travel, and so I had her ashes made into a diamond to take her with me on my adventures. Her ashes along with both of our wedding rings are on a chain I carry in my pocket on my adventures. Helps me feel close to her. I will always love and miss her, but I know she would want me to be happy and find love. I've been dating new girl for over a year. I dated a bit a couple years after wife's death but never found love until new girl, M. M is great, and has been so supportive and understanding of my late wife. She knows about the chain and never said it bothered her, though she knew the stone was my wife's ashes. I used to keep the chain on my bedpost but thought it would be disrespectful to M, so it's now safe in a drawer. I still take it with me on travels. M and I have talked about moving in together when her lease ends in 2 months. I am ecstatic for this. I want to spend my life with her. Yesterday, I was packing for a solo weekend trip to the East Coast as she was over. When I packed the chain, M asked me what the other ring was, not X's or my wedding rings. I explained that I had X's ashes pressed into a stone and she flipped. Couldn't believe I had lied to her for a year and said what I had done was creepy and weird. Gave me an ultimatum: get rid of the stone, I can keep our rings on the chain, just not the ashes, or she will not move in with me. I asked if I could put the stone away in a drawer, but she said no, it had to go. She refuses to spend another night with my wife in the house and said it's her or me. Please help Reddit, I don't know what to do. I don't want to lose this girl, but I also don't want to give up respect for the woman I once loved. My ex was not close to her parents, so I cannot give it to them. I can't just throw it away. I'm at a loss. Cancelled my weekend trip. I just want to make things work with M. Edit. I keep thinking to myself that making this stone was totally crazy. M told me that no girl would ever be comfortable with it and that if I keep the stone I will be living a lonely, miserable life. Women, or men, would this be a deal breaker to you? Am I insane? TLDR, turned late wife's ashes into a diamond that new girlfriend wants me to completely get rid of. Don't want to lose girl, can't separate from wife's ashes. Help! Update, whoa, this totally blew up on me. I had no idea my story would get such a response. I was hoping for a comment or two, but this is crazy. This morning I took the time to read what all of you wrote, and I'm hoping that Anne will settle for a safety deposit box or leaving it at my mom's. She's never had somebody she cares about pass away, and I think the thought of my wife's remains being in my house freaked her out. She's coming over tonight to talk. I will try to update you all soon. Thanks again for all the support and helping me to know that what I did with my wife's remains wasn't that insane. Updates. We met up on Saturday. There was a lot of dialogue between us, but I'm going to try to keep it short and paraphrase what we said. I know many of you said to give M time to cool off, but I just couldn't spend my whole weekend knowing she was unhappy. I invited her over for dinner and spent the day cooking her favorite meal. I took the ring over to my mom's house, because I know it being in the house made her uncomfortable, and bought her some flowers. I really wanted to show her that she has no competition, that I love her. When she comes over, the first thing she says is it still in the house? When I assure her it's not, she comes in and sits down. I start by apologizing, explaining that I never meant to lie to her or hurt her, but that I now realize I was lying by omission and it wasn't fair to her. I apologized again and said I hope she didn't lose all the trust she had in me. I then told her how much I love her. I explained how much she means to me and how easily I could see myself spending my life with her. I go on and on about how happy she makes me, blah blah blah. She likes all this lovey/apologetic talk and is smiling and holding my hand, telling me it's okay and that she loves me too. I then say it's time to talk about the ring, and she changes right before my eyes. She lets go of my hand, and her happy face is replaced by one of anger. She said something along the lines of, "I thought you got rid of it," and I told her that I never said that, I simply said it wasn't currently in the house. She got angry, but I asked her to listen to me before she said anything. I explained that when my wife died I didn't have the heart to bury her, and having her remains around felt odd to me, so the ring seemed like the best option. At this point she's crying, with her face in her hands. I ask if she would be okay with me keeping it at my mom's place or in a safety deposit box. She's silent, then cries, "Why couldn't you just bury her like a normal person?" Now I'm crying and I say that I'm sorry, that I respect my wife's memory but I wish it didn't disrupt our relationship because I love you, Em. Anyway, we cried. She said that she wishes the ring didn't bug her as much as it does, but that she's just not sure if she can be with me. She says making your wife a ring isn't what normal people do, and it's making her question about my character. I asked her what she wants me to do with the ring, what her idea of get rid of it is, hoping we could compromise. She said she doesn't know what I should do with it, she just wish it never existed. She said she loves me, but she's just not sure about the relationship anymore. Told me she needs to think on it. Left without even eating her dinner. Sad face. I haven't heard from her since. I'm not quite sure what to do or what we are at this point. We have stuff at each other's places and both have keys. I love this girl, and I don't want to easily give up on us. But I'm hesitant to reach out to her again. I'm thinking of giving it some time and hoping she reaches out to me. I don't know. The thought of losing Em breaks my heart. Edit, I want to add that I really don't think this is about being insecure or jealous of my wife. I really think Em is freaked out by the fact that I had my wife cremated and turned into a stone. I think even if I had her in an urn, Em would still be freaked out. Em hasn't had any experience with death, but I think she was raised with the idea that when somebody dies they go into the ground. The fact that my wife isn't buried somewhere freaks her out. TLDR, try to make amends with Em and assure her that there is no competition. She is uneasy by the fact that I made the ring in the first place and isn't sure if it's a deal breaker or not. We haven't talked since. Updates. Again, thank you for all the support in the last 2 posts. You really helped me keep a clear head through all of this. I had no idea Reddit could help me so much. I didn't plan on posting again, but I have surprisingly good news. Last night I came home from work to find a framed photo from my wedding hanging on the wall with the chain dangling around it. There was also a 5-page note from Em on the coffee table. I'm not going to type the whole note, because a lot of it was very personal to Em. However, I will say that there was a lot of apologizing on her part. She told me that she thought a lot about the ring, and even did some Googling, and realized that it's not all that uncommon. She said she was completely embarrassed by her reaction and that she was uncomfortable with the thought of being around anybody's remains. She called herself disrespectful, childish, and pathetic. Sad face. Em also said that what I did was a beautiful thing, and shows what a sensitive and loving man I am. That she wants to be with me more than anything and doesn't want to change a thing about our tradition, taking the ring traveling. She told me she now sees that it's a lovely idea and said my wife was lucky to have me in my family. That she as well is lucky to now be a part of my and my family's life. She concluded saying that she felt as though we had a good connection and handled conflict well. She said she hopes that I know her well enough to know that this isn't the way she typically reacts. I do. She also told me she was going to get therapy, as she is worried about what will happen once somebody she knows dies. The last part of her note said that she left a surprise in my fridge, a 6-pack of my favorite beer, and that she'd love to enjoy them with me if I'll have her. She told me to take all the time I need before calling her and that she hopes someday I'll forgive her for her actions. I called her immediately. We talked, and she pretty much repeated what she said in her note. I repeated what I said at dinner, that she is my number one, and that I am so sorry for lying about the ring. We have plans to see each other tomorrow night. I love the photo of me and my wife. I don't have many photos of us, and none that are framed. The chain looks perfect around it, and it's a nice little memorial to have in my home. I love the idea of starting a new home with Em, while still having my wife's memory be a part of it. I know this is not what many of you wanted to read. You wanted me to kick Em to the curb. However, I think that a year of good actions make up for one bad action. Her apology was genuine and I really do feel as though this won't happen again. If she tries to control something like this again, and I can't resolve it, I guess I know where to post, winky face. I can't thank you all enough. Edit, I was expecting you all to be disappointed in me, and yet the first comments are saying how happy you are for me. Thanks again, Reddit. TLDR, Em made big apology. Forgave her. Happy. My 26F fiance's 28M ex-wife 28F has cancer. He's moved in with her and postponed our wedding. My fiance, Max, 28M, and I, 26F, have been together for 2 years and engaged for 9 months. Our wedding was supposed to be in early January. We have always had what I would describe as a healthy, honest relationship. I've never had a reason to doubt him. Until now. Max's ex-wife, Caroline, 28F, was his high school sweetheart. They got married very young, both at 22, right out of college. Their marriage lasted about 2 years. According to Max, they simply got married too quickly. They didn't realize how different their relationship would be once they were living in the real world, working full-time and struggling to pay rent. They divorced on good terms but didn't stay in contact afterward. Max stayed in our home city. Caroline moved away, pursued a modeling career and began traveling extensively. Then, 3 months ago, she contacted Max out of nowhere through Facebook. She told him she was back in town and asked if he would meet her for coffee. He agreed. During that coffee, Caroline told him that she had been diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer. Her chances of survival were low. She was determined to fight it with surgery and chemotherapy, but she didn't know how much time she had. And there was one thing she wanted. She wanted Max by her side throughout her treatment. Apparently, Caroline's parents had died shortly after she and Max got married. She has no siblings, and the rest of her family lives overseas. She told Max that he was the closest thing to family she had left. I completely understood why that affected him. The next day, Max brought Caroline to our apartment so I could meet her. She was actually lovely. She was clearly trying incredibly hard to stay optimistic despite facing the possibility that she might not even make it to 30. I felt terrible for her. I still do. And I told Max that I supported him being there for her. A few weeks later, Caroline had her first surgery. Max flew across the country to be with her. We live on the East Coast, while she was on the West Coast, so we stayed in a hotel a few minutes from her apartment. He's a writer, so working remotely wasn't an issue. For the 2 weeks he was there, we talked on the phone or over Skype almost every day. Then Caroline had her surgery at the beginning of June. Unfortunately, it wasn't completely successful. Her doctors decided to move on to the next stage of treatment, chemotherapy. Max came home after the surgery and explained that Caroline's treatment plan was scheduled to begin in July and continue until late January. It was going to be an incredibly difficult period for her. She wanted Max there throughout the treatment. We couldn't afford to keep paying for a hotel until January, so Max moved into Caroline's apartment. He sleeps on her sofa. He's been living there for the past month. We still Skype, but now it's only a couple of times a week. Yesterday, Max called me and gently told me that, based on Caroline's condition, he wouldn't feel right leaving her when she's so close to the end of her treatment. He wants us to postpone the wedding until February at the earliest. That would allow him to stay with Caroline until her chemotherapy is finished. And I don't know how I'm supposed to feel about any of this. Part of me feels horrible for being angry at all. Caroline has cancer. She's suffering. She may genuinely be fighting for her life. How am I supposed to resent someone for needing help during something like that? But the resentment is there anyway. I resent Caroline for needing Max constantly at her side, as if she has absolutely nobody else in her life. And I resent Max for agreeing to this arrangement. He's my fiancé. We're supposed to be getting married in a few months. Instead, he's living with his ex-wife on the other side of the country, and now our wedding is being postponed. We won't even see each other in person for months. I feel angry. Then I feel guilty for being angry. Then I feel guilty for feeling guilty. I don't know how I'm supposed to explain this to the people in my life without sounding like a horrible person who begrudges a cancer patient having someone to support her. I don't want to abandon Caroline. I don't want her to go through this alone. But I also don't think it's reasonable for my fiancé to move into his ex-wife's apartment for 7 months and put our wedding and relationship on hold. I genuinely don't know where the line is anymore. Am I wrong for feeling resentful? Is there a better way to handle this? Edit. A lot of people seem to agree that, while the situation is incredibly sad, Max isn't handling it appropriately. After reading everyone's responses, I think I need to talk to him. I'm going to tell him, as gently but as clearly as I can, that I don't want him living with Caroline until February. From there, we'll have to figure something out. I don't want to leave Caroline completely on her own, so I'm willing to help find another solution. But him living with her until February is not something I can accept. Update. First, thank you to everyone who gave me advice and support. I woke up to a locked post and more than 100 unread messages. I'm sorry I couldn't respond to everyone individually, but I did read through every comment, reply and PM. Every perspective helped me look at the situation differently. I spoke to Max this morning. I told him that, as terrible as I feel for Caroline, I don't want him living with her until February. I suggested that we brainstorm another arrangement. Maybe he could continue visiting her regularly without moving in. We could even postpone our honeymoon and use that money to pay for his plane tickets. Several people also suggested that Caroline could potentially come here for treatment, so I brought that up too. We have a spare bedroom, and I told him that I'd be willing to let her stay with us if that was what she needed. I made one thing very clear. I don't blame him for wanting to help someone he once loved who may be going through the worst period of her life. But I couldn't ignore how marginalized I was starting to feel, especially with our wedding so close. Max didn't say much. He just listened. I kept talking until eventually I had nothing left to say. Then I asked him to please tell me what he was thinking. And that's when he told me the truth. Caroline was never stage 4. She was stage 2. I honestly didn't understand what he was saying at first. He assured me that everything else he'd told me was true. Caroline had really been diagnosed with breast cancer. She really had surgery. The surgery really hadn't been completely successful. She really was starting chemotherapy. But her chances of survival were significantly better than he'd made me believe. She wasn't facing the same immediate life or death situation he described to me. Max admitted that he had lied because he thought it was the only way I would understand why he needed to be with her. He believed that if her situation seemed less serious than literal life or death, I wouldn't agree to him essentially moving across the country to stay with her. So he made it sound worse. Much worse. He also admitted something else. He had told Caroline that our wedding had been postponed until next August. He had made her believe that there was no problem with him staying away until February. But that wasn't actually the case. Our wedding had never been postponed that far. And apparently, Max was the one insisting that he remain with her. After her surgery, Caroline had actually told him he could go home. She told him that it wasn't fair to expect him to live with her throughout her entire chemotherapy treatment, even though she would have loved having him there. He refused. He told her that I fully supported his decision. I didn't. I never did. And he knew that. Max swears he isn't still in love with Caroline. I don't know if I can believe him anymore. He lied directly to my face. He lied about how serious her illness was. He lied about our wedding date. And he told Caroline that I supported him living with her. Before Caroline even came to our apartment back in May, Max had warned me not to mention that she was stage 4 because she was extremely sensitive about it. And I believed him. I trusted him. I believed I was helping a woman who might not survive her illness. I believed my fiancé was making an incredibly difficult sacrifice to support someone who had nobody else. Instead, he deliberately distorted the situation so that I would agree to something I never would have agreed to otherwise. He put his past with Caroline ahead of his future with me. So now I'll be spending the next few months looking for a new apartment and canceling wedding plans. The wedding is off. So is the relationship. I still feel terrible for Caroline. I still hope she gets through her treatment and has a long life ahead of her. But none of that changes what Max did. He didn't just choose to help his ex-wife. He lied to me so that I would let him do it. And I don't think I can build a marriage with someone I can no longer trust. Thank you all for your advice and kind words. I genuinely don't know what I would have done without the perspective I got from everyone here. AITA for telling my fiancé we should call the wedding off if she doesn't approve of my female best man? Throwaway because I don't want people seeing my personal shit on my main account. I, 28M, proposed to my girlfriend, Jasmine, 24F, in March. Earlier this week, we were talking about wedding plans. Jasmine had already picked out her bridesmaids and was asking about my groomsmen so we could figure out who would walk with whom. I told her who I wanted in my wedding party. And then I mentioned that my best man was actually going to be my best friend Kate, 27F. Jasmine immediately freaked out. She was adamant that Kate should not be my best man. I asked her why, and she started listing reasons. She said it would look weird in the photos. It would be awkward when Kate had to walk down the aisle with her maid of honor. She didn't want Kate distracting the guests. And apparently Kate is too short to stand next to a bunch of guys who are all 6+ feet tall. At that point, I told her those reasons were ridiculous. She then told me I should respect her wishes because it was our wedding and started suggesting other people I could choose instead. I think I know the real reason. She's jealous. What bothers me is that this isn't something Jasmine has ever had a problem with before. Kate and I have been close friends for almost 7 years. She was there before I even met Jasmine. She introduced me to my current social circle. Before that, I was basically an awkward nerdy guy who had trouble making friends. Now I'm an awkward nerdy guy with a social life. Kate and I survived grad school together. She's been there through some of the highest and lowest points of my life. So to me, having her standing beside me at my wedding seems completely natural. Jasmine and Kate know each other. They're friendly, but they're not friends. I'm not particularly close with Jasmine's friends either, so I don't think that's unusual. Over time, Jasmine had seemed completely comfortable with the fact that I had a close female friend. She never acted jealous or suspicious. At least, I thought she was comfortable with it. Then this happened. We got into a huge argument. Jasmine was upset that I wouldn't budge, and I was frustrated that she was being so irrational about the situation. She kept accusing me of having some kind of ulterior motive for wanting Kate in the wedding so badly. Eventually, I snapped. I told her that if she couldn't let me have this one thing, maybe we shouldn't have a wedding at all. She got extremely angry and told me to leave our apartment. So I left. I'd been couch surfing at a friend's place for the past couple of days. And no, I'm not staying with Kate. The last time I tried talking to Jasmine, she asked if I was ready to apologize. I said no. Not because I want to fight with her, but because I don't want to apologize for wanting my best friend to be part of my wedding. I also don't want Jasmine to think that she was right to forbid Kate from being my best man simply because she's a woman. And before anyone asks. No, Kate and I have never been sexual or romantic. I'm not attracted to her. We're just friends. She's been one of the most important people in my life for years, and it seems ridiculous to suddenly pretend that relationship doesn't exist because I'm getting married. Jasmine has never behaved like this before. She's normally pretty easygoing and understanding. And technically, she didn't exactly kick me out. She said, "Well, maybe you should just go then." I called her bluff and left. She later tried to get me to come back, and she also wanted me to apologize. But we're both stubborn when it comes to things we feel strongly about. I don't actually want to call off the wedding. I love Jasmine, and I want to marry her. I just wanted her to understand how serious I was. To me, this isn't about choosing Kate over my fiancé. It's about whether my fiancé trusts me enough to have a close female friend without assuming there's something going on. So, AITA for telling my fiancé that if she won't accept my female best man, we should call off the wedding? Edit. I didn't expect this many responses. A lot of people seem to think I'm choosing Kate over Jasmine, so I'll clarify a few things. Kate isn't single. Jasmine and Kate are friendly, but they aren't close friends. I'm not particularly close with any of Jasmine's friends either. Kate and I have known each other for almost 7 years. I've been with Jasmine for 2. I'm not attracted to Kate, and we're not secretly going to run off into the sunset together. Stop watching bad rom-coms. It's 2020. I can be friends with a woman without wanting to sleep with her. And I'm not choosing another woman over Jasmine. If Kate were a man and Jasmine suddenly told me she didn't want him in my wedding, I'd still have every right to be pissed. But because Kate is a woman, suddenly that means I don't love my fiancé enough? That's bullshit. And if you're implying I'm going to have an affair with Kate or that I've already cheated on Jasmine, fuck off. Edit 2. I didn't want to make a whole update post because it's only been a day, but I figured I'd update here. I went back home today after we'd both had some time to cool off. Jasmine and I had a long conversation. I'm not going into all the details, but the important part is that we're not calling off the wedding. We're going to keep talking about this and try to find a solution that we're both comfortable with. I have no idea what that solution will look like yet. But at least we're talking instead of throwing our entire relationship away over one argument. AITA for making my friend and his girlfriend pay for a new engagement ring for my fiancé? My fiancé and I had been together for 7.5 years before I proposed. We started dating when we were 15, went to university together, and recently graduated. She got her nursing degree, while I graduated with a sociology degree. We have an amazing relationship, and we'd both been talking about taking the next step for a while. A few years ago, my fiancé had subtly sent me a picture of the engagement ring she wanted. I saved the information and kept it in mind. Then we decided to get a puppy. We put down a deposit for an 8-week-old Labrador, and when the day finally came to pick her up, I contacted the breeder and arranged something special. I proposed to my girlfriend with the puppy. Everything went perfectly. She said yes, our families came over in waves to celebrate, and everyone was excited to meet the puppy and celebrate our engagement. It was honestly one of the best days of our lives. Then our friends came over. I'll call my best friend F and his girlfriend GF. I've known F since kindergarten and consider him one of my closest friends. GF had only recently become part of our lives, and while we'd always been civil with each other, we weren't particularly close. They came over for a barbecue and drinks to celebrate our engagement. The drinks kept flowing for several hours, and eventually everyone was pretty drunk. At some point, GF asked to see the engagement ring. My fiancé took it off and handed it to her. And then GF did something none of us expected. She put the engagement ring on her own ring finger. At first, everyone laughed. Then she tried to take it off. It wouldn't come off. Completely stuck. GF started panicking. My fiancé is a nurse, so she immediately tried to calm her down. She checked the finger several times and repeatedly reassured GF that there were no circulation problems. But GF kept getting more and more anxious. For the next 3 hours, we tried practically every method we could think of to get the ring off. Soap. Oil. Cold water. Everything. Nothing worked. The entire time, GF kept saying things like, "I can't lose this finger. That's my wedding finger." We were all trying to keep calm, but she was getting increasingly hysterical. Eventually, because she had been pulling and twisting the ring so much, her finger started swelling. At that point we unanimously decided the best thing to do was leave it alone and try again in the morning once the swelling had gone down. Before my fiancé went to bed, she checked GF's finger one last time. There were still no circulation problems. Everything appeared fine. Then GF demanded that F take her to the hospital. He tried to convince her to wait until morning. He reminded her that my fiancé had checked her finger several times and that there were no signs of an emergency. GF wouldn't listen. Eventually, F gave in and took her. About 45 minutes later, F came back. And he was carrying the engagement ring. Except it wasn't a ring anymore. The hospital had cut it off at GF's request. My fiancé completely lost it. She slammed the door, went to bed and cried with me for several hours. This wasn't just some random piece of jewelry. It was the ring I'd spent years planning to give her. It was the exact style she'd chosen. And it had been destroyed because someone put it on their finger while drunk. The next day, GF returned the ring. It was broken where the hospital had cut through it. They offered to pay to have it repaired, and GF initially sent my fiancé $100. We contacted several jewelers to see what could be done. Unfortunately, the answer wasn't good. The band was too dainty to simply repair. Because of the way it had been cut, the ring would most likely have to be completely reset. Since it was a custom setting, my fiancée decided she'd rather just have another ring made. The original ring had cost around $600, so it wasn't some insanely expensive piece of jewelry. GF then told us she couldn't afford to pay for the replacement because she wasn't getting enough shifts at work. F stepped up and sent the remaining $500. At that point, we thought the situation was settled. GF had caused the damage, F had covered the remaining cost, and we'd ordered a replacement ring that would be custom made in about 3 weeks. The new ring is very similar to the original. We were satisfied. Until F contacted my fiancé. He said we should send the money back. Apparently GF was very sorry that we think she handled the situation inappropriately. He also said that not a lot of people would have sent that money. That last part really confused me. She took someone else's engagement ring, put it on her finger, got it stuck, ignored repeated reassurance that her finger was fine, demanded to go to the hospital, and then had the ring cut off. The ring was returned broken. And now we're apparently supposed to feel guilty because they paid to replace something GF destroyed? We aren't sending the money back. The replacement ring is already being made, and we'll have it in about 3 weeks. I understand that GF didn't intentionally break the ring. But she intentionally put it on her finger. She then made the decision to go to the hospital and have it cut off, despite being told that her finger wasn't in danger. And now her boyfriend is asking us to return the money because apparently we're being unreasonable for expecting them to pay for the damage. I don't think we're asking for anything unreasonable. But maybe I'm too emotionally involved because it's my fiancé's engagement ring. So, Reddit. AITA for refusing to return the money and making my friend and his girlfriend pay for the replacement ring? AITA for telling my wife to stop being so jealous of my best friend's fiancé? My wife, 35F, and I, 36M, are good friends with another couple, my best friend Matt, 36M, and his fiancée Rachel, 24F. Rachel is a model and, objectively speaking, she's very attractive. My wife is also beautiful, but she's less conventionally attractive. I fell in love with my wife because of her humor, personality, and the way she treats people. To me, those things are far more attractive than looks. Recently, though, I've noticed my wife becoming increasingly mean toward Rachel. She'd make comments about her being an airhead or make little digs about her intelligence. When it happened privately, I'd tell my wife that it wasn't okay and defend Rachel. But when my wife made those comments in front of everyone, I usually stayed quiet because I didn't want to embarrass my wife publicly. Then we went away on a trip together. We'd been planning it for a while and were all really looking forward to it. But one night at dinner, we started talking about the economy. Rachel was listening to the conversation when my wife suddenly looked at her and said, "Don't worry, Rachel. You can join in the conversation once the smart people are done." She was the only person who laughed. I was absolutely mortified. Once we were alone, I told my wife she'd been incredibly rude and that I was ashamed of her behavior. She agreed and promised she would stop making nasty comments. I thought that was the end of it. The next night, we all went out to a bar. Rachel started getting a lot of attention from guys there. A couple of men were sending drinks over to our table, and my wife was visibly annoyed that she wasn't getting the same attention. I tried to make her feel better. I bought her drinks, made a fuss over her and tried to keep her involved. The drinks Rachel received were actually being accepted for the whole table, so it wasn't like Rachel was sitting there drinking everything herself. We were all sharing them and joking about the two guys who kept sending them over. Then one of the guys came over and told Rachel she looked just like the model Zendaya. My wife suddenly burst out laughing. "Did you mean to say Whoopi Goldberg?" Nobody laughed. I looked at my wife and, without even thinking, said, "You really are so jealous of her, aren't you?" Before she could respond, Rachel got up from the table and walked away in tears. I immediately followed Matt and apologized directly to Rachel. I told her I was incredibly sorry for what my wife had said and that I was ashamed of her behavior. When I came back to the table, my wife was furious with me. She said I was horrible for calling her jealous in front of everyone and embarrassing her like that. And then I made things even worse. I told her, straight up, that she was jealous because Rachel was more attractive than her. The second I said it, I knew it was a horrible thing to say. I said it out of anger after watching my wife repeatedly make nasty comments toward Rachel, but I knew exactly where it would hurt. My wife was devastated. I understand why. I don't actually think my wife is unattractive. Quite the opposite. She's stunning, and I wouldn't have married her if I wasn't attracted to her. To me, she's the most beautiful woman in the world. But Rachel is a model. Objectively, she is more conventionally attractive. I realize now that saying that to my wife was cruel. After the trip, things got even worse. Matt messaged me and told me that my wife was no longer welcome at their wedding. He also said that he and Rachel had decided they weren't interested in continuing the friendship if my wife was going to be part of it. Rachel felt that my wife had bullied her. She even suggested that some of my wife's comments may have been racially motivated. I was completely humiliated. My wife initially insisted that she wasn't jealous. She said the comments weren't offensive and that everyone was just tiptoeing around the pretty girl. But eventually, after we got home, she admitted the truth. She was jealous. She told me that seeing a younger, prettier woman get treated so much better than her had really affected her. She felt like she was always going to be second best. She also admitted that she noticed how much attention Rachel received from other people and hated that she wasn't getting the same attention. That actually made me realize something. I had been assuming my wife was jealous because she thought I was attracted to Rachel. But that wasn't it. When I asked my wife whether she thought I found Rachel more attractive than her, she said no. She didn't think I had feelings for Rachel. She just felt awful watching another woman receive the kind of attention she wished she received herself. For the record, I don't have feelings for Rachel. We're friendly because Matt is my best friend, but Rachel is much younger than us and we don't have that much in common. I simply recognize that she's conventionally attractive. My wife is conventionally attractive too. She's just not a model. That doesn't mean I find Rachel more attractive than my wife. I don't. My wife has also said that she knows I love her and that this wasn't really about me. She has since admitted that her behavior toward Rachel was inappropriate and has apologized to her. We've already had couples counseling, and my wife has also had individual therapy. I think she needs to continue with that because this situation clearly exposed an insecurity that has been there for a while. I also apologized for what I said. When I initially told her that Rachel was more attractive than her, my wife was furious, and honestly, she had every right to be. It was a cruel thing to say, and I probably did lasting damage to her self-esteem. At the same time, I don't regret finally confronting her about the way she was treating Rachel. I do regret how I did it. Looking back, I think we were both assholes in different ways. My wife was bullying someone because she was insecure about her appearance. And I responded by attacking the exact insecurity that was driving her behavior. I still believe I was right to call out what she was doing. But I don't know if I had to be so cruel about it. As for the wedding, I'll still attend. My wife won't be coming with me, even if Matt and Rachel eventually decide to re-invite her. I don't think their friendship can be salvaged, and I'm honestly not sure what happens to ours either. This whole situation has made me see my wife differently. I love her, but I'm deeply disappointed in the way she behaved. And now I'm left wondering whether I crossed a line of my own when I told her the one thing I knew would hurt her the most. So, Reddit. Aita?